Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason, and Officer Skills has the week off again because of me. It's totally my fault. Look, let's see, it's I don't know 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. I'm at work, as you can see, and I thought I would make a quick video because I was here making videos anyway, and give you guys something to look at. It's a rough season for me, and I had some stuff to get in the way, and we couldn't sit down and record. So next week we will be back to talk about Article 2 and the powers of the presidency, and the things that all of us feel like probably need to be sorted out with regard to that. But until then, I thought I would make an interim video and give you guys something to watch that can connect the dots of where we're at in the conversation right now with the origins of this channel, which of course is about becoming a multi-party system. I just want to walk through kind of a scenario and just approach it this way. We have a lot of pretty serious problems headed towards us. Not just in this country, but human problems, earth problems. One of them is climate change. And I know that there's a lot of conversation around what that actually means, but I'd really like to, steer away from the nuance and just talk about the idea that aside from the flat earthers, and we love you guys too, but the rest of us who want to believe that the billions that we've spent in space probes and scientists, people who spend their lives studying this shit, have somewhat of a grip on the idea that the moon revolves around the earth and the earth revolves around the other planets, revolve around the sun, and the sun is on its own path around the center of our galaxy, a galactic cycle, a 230 million year galactic cycle. And I suspect that scientists have some grip on what that means, but for instance, 65 million years ago, when the asteroid hit the earth and it ended the reign of the dinosaurs, that had something to do with where they were in the galactic cycle. And because of these things and many others, we know that the climate changes. And while there is some argument about what that means, what's more concerning to me is that we don't know all that it means. Moving on to AI. I think this one's one of the most interesting topics to me. In full disclosure, I am using this technology on a regular basis. And I gotta tell you, I am completely enamored with it. While it still has its quirks, and it's definitely not what I would call Jarvis ready for any of you Iron Man fans out there, but it is an amazing, amazing technology. I am using it to finish a book that I had started for years. I am using it to write a prospectus for our brand as we are continuing to look for investors. TC and I are using it for rundowns to help us do research for the channel. We're going to be using it and are using it for this mock guidance because it understands legal language. It is an amazing technology already, and it is very easy. When you use it, it is very easy to see how it is going to dramatically affect the types of jobs that we have to offer people in the future. And the thing is that the Oppenheimers of this technology, the people who are creating it, they describe it as more significant than the splitting of the atom, like as far as how it's going to affect our society. That's their description of it. Is that hyperbole? I don't know, but that's the way they're describing it. And we don't allow individuals to own nuclear weapons or nuclear reactors. So that's kind of weird to me. Fresh water. There's conversation in the news about food shortages and famine, but the human body, as macabre as it is, the human body can go for weeks without food. You can't go more than a few days without fresh water. And there is, in the science world, there is some concern about that. And these are, I remember when Rex Tillerson was Secretary of State. He said, "Oh, we can just engineer our way out of these problems." And my immediate thought was, "Really, Rex? Who's working on that? Like, did the engineer fairies are just going to come out of the woodwork?" And it doesn't work like that. It takes decades to engineer your way out of problems like that. So that's just a few of the things that I see that are real human problems that aren't really associated with this country, other than we're supposed to be leading the world. We have an election coming up next year, and I'm sure I can assure you that none of the conversation around that election is going to be centered around any of these topics. It'll be centered around bad employee behavior. Yeah, bad employee behavior. These people that we hire, these W-2 wage earners, that we hire these people and we send them to Washington to do this job. And the conversation around the election coming up is going to be around the president did this or this secretary did that, and not any of these issues. And and the president, let me tell you, the president's going to argue most likely that China is beating us and Russia is beating us because they treat their countries like a business and their executive stays in power. And there are some people out there arguing for unitary executive theory, and we're going to talk about those next week. But the problem with all of that is, president's not really wrong. China and Russia aren't beating us. That is beyond hyperbole. That's just a lie. But they do have some advantages that we don't have, in that they can just do things. Their government can just decide to do something and then do it. Whereas we decide things by majority. And here's the connective tissue, folks. This is where the rubber meets the road. Dividing the country in two in any kind of way, geographically, mathematically, socially, politically, dividing the country in two is not a pathway to majorities. It's a pathway to war. And next week, we're going to get back to talking about this convention and what seems to be inevitable, and why we should not only be supporting it, but trying to drive it into its existence. This convention and the idea of becoming a multi-party system, those things only happen at the individual level, the people rising up and putting pressure on state governments to trigger these mechanisms. And I guess that brings me to my last point, which is how important it is for you guys to share this media. TC said last week it's a hobby, and what he means by that is he's not ready to go on a bus tour, and I don't blame him for that. But he understands the importance of what we're doing, and that we definitely could be doing other things with our time. This is critical, and it's critical for you guys to share and engage. It's critical for you guys to leave comments and suggestions and tickle the algorithm and get this thing around. Look, if this thing was to somehow get popular and start generating money through default ads, we would definitely put that money into good things. Probably something like some kind of town hall meeting or whatever, to help try and engage the population. And actually, there's a local group here that we're trying to schedule something like that so that we can record it and post it and show you guys what the conversation looks like in a public setting. So share this media. Leave your comments, you guys. all the mechanisms that we need, and we've said this before, we're going to keep pounding it over and over again because that seems to be the only way to get something done. All of the mechanisms that we need to fix these problems already exist. The legal language in this 230-year-old document already exists. And next week when we talk about Article 2 powers, we're going to talk to you about why unitary executive theory is ridiculous and the arguments why it shouldn't even be an argument. But anyway, that's for next week. Like and subscribe, share, leave a comment, and come see us next week when we get back to the conversation at the convention. All right.